Hi everybody, this is my lecture on the first part of spring up through the rape. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit upset because I just did this with the microphone off. So we're gonna try again. It'll probably be subpar because I'm sad. So a lot of you picked this out as an important section, the section with Blue, the father of the family, and Cholly. So an important cultural note to remember is the Jim Crow imagery of Black people and watermelons. So let me show you that. So it was a common image at this time to put, in stores of just the stereotype that Black people can't get enough of watermelons, and sort of the idea that it mimics, the shape of their face, their white teeth in their face. So what Morrison's doing here is using that image for her own purposes by having the father of the family smash this watermelon. So basically by smashing the watermelon, he's symbolically smashing these stereotypes that white people have made for blacks. Blue is an also important character because he's an Uncle Tom stereotype. So an Uncle Tom character comes from Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Family, Uncle Tom's Cabin. So Blue is very subservient. He hovers on the periphery of the circle, a faint smile softening his face. He says, "Ah, dare go the heart." So he's a weak black man, and that comes from his name Blue, implying that he has some sort of whiteness about him, and he's not as strong as a character like the father of the family. So then the third important thing is that Cholly views the father of the family as a God figure, and because he pictures God as an old white man, he figures that this God figure must be the devil. So he never felt anything thinking about God, but just the idea of the devil excited him, and now the strong black devil was blotting out the sun and getting ready to split open the world. So he's identifying with this powerful figure, but this powerful figure, unfortunately, is causing damage. So he rejects God at this point and embraces, chaos and damage. And it's not any fault of Cholly's, it's just that he's never been able to identify with any sort of God presented to him. Okay, let me go out to Northern. Okay, so I already marked this up because I already did this. So, if you look at the scene with Aunt Jimmy, oops, what's happening? Aunt Jimmy's significant because she's an older woman with a masculine name, right? So she represents sort of the freedom and the power that comes with masculinity. Same with Medea. Earlier on, Medea came in. She has really short hair. I think it's tied in knots. And there's this quote where she's like stroking the knob of her cane. So she has, a giant penis at this point. So these old women are free because they don't have to worry anymore about sexual exploitation. But poor Aunt Jimmy eats a pie, which we've talked about earlier, representing sexuality, like when the pie stains Piccola's dress, just like her menstrual blood had stained her dress. So pie is the worst thing to give to anybody ailing. I'm surprised Jimmy didn't know better. So this mother/father figure that Cholly relied on died when she tried to go back and embrace her, figurative sexuality. So Cholly never really knew a mother because Aunt Jimmy is sort of free in her gender neutrality. So that's the importance of Aunt Jimmy and Medea. So when they're at Aunt Jimmy's funeral, what am I doing? I want an eraser. He meets Darlene, and it's implied that something bad is going to happen because her big blue hair bow had come undone. So, blue is represented as a positive thing, right? Piccola wants blue eyes. Blue is a, positive, weak character according to whites. So positive for whites, I should say. And the fact that her big blue hair bow had come undone sort of implies that something is going to happen to her in the eyes of whites, which later does when the men come with the flashlights. So it's a positive sexual experience through here and here, first love in a vineyard or whatever. Her dress is stained by berries, just like Piccola was stained by berries. And then these men force Cholly and Darlene to continue under their watch. And this is almost like, sort of like a slave capture scene where they have flashlights in the dark and they force an interaction on Cholly and Darlene. And it says later that it never occurred to Cholly to hate the white men. He hated Darlene. So this is where the start of his hatred for black females comes into play. And it's based on racism. It's not based on anything the black females have done themselves. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the page where Darlene's dress gets stained. So make sure Darlene's white cotton dress was stained with juice. So just like Picola's dress with her menstrual blood, and her dress again when she drops the pie at the White House. Okay. Talked about that. Okay, so after this, Cholly goes to find his father, right? And his father rejects him, just like Jimmy died and Madeira is not a figure that stays long. So he feels totally lost. And then these three women are leaning out the windows, and it says they give him back his manhood. So these three women probably aren't the same three women as Marie, China, and Poland, but I think it's significant that there is this twisted Trinity figure, again, giving manhood, giving Piccola hope. So they're almost like, fates or the Trinity or muses. They just give black people some sort of power or hope. And that's a parallel when it mentions casually down here that Cholly had killed 3 white men. So this number 3 is almost a mystical power of sin for Cholly, both in sex and murder. And I think this is one of the most important paragraphs in the book right here. The pieces of Cholly's life could only become coherent in the head of a musician. Only those who talk their talk through the gold of curved metal and the touch of black and white rectangles. And I think that's important. So that's a piano, but the imagery of black and white together. And taut skins and strings echoing from wooden corridors could give true form to his life. Only they would know how to connect the heart of a red watermelon to the bag, to the muscadine, to the flashlight on his behind, to the fist of money, to the lemonade in a mason jar, to a man called Blue, and come up with what all of that meant in joy, pain, anger, love, and give it a final and pervading ache of freedom. Only a musician would know without even knowing that he knew that Cholly was free, dangerously free. So Morrison believes that music is an essential part of black culture, and she tries to make her prose sound as musical as possible. So this is the idea, basically, why the book doesn't go in order. In order to understand these people's lives, we have to read it more like music, which is obviously very difficult for readers. And then Cholly being free, dangerously free, we talked about Morrison's archetype of the bad black man, who's both bad, like evil, and bad, like Michael Jackson bad, like sort of a cool freedom. So he's never going to be subservient to anything, basically, again, whether it's his wife, white culture, his family, whatever. And then the last page is basically why he hates marriage. So it's not that he hates Pauline or his children, it's that he hates being restricted. So it's the sameness that bothers him. The constant varietiness, the sheer weight of sameness. So this is the sort of a callback to slavery, being enslaved by the sameness of family, and that's why he hates this. So remember, he was attracted to Pauline's foot earlier, and that was being attracted to blackness, the idea of this handicap that you're born with, almost the same as being born with a handicap of being a different race. But now that he's tied to this broken foot forever, he feels trapped. So when he sees Piccola, I think he came home drunk, yeah. He sees Piccola, he's reeling drunk, and he sees her scratching her leg with her foot, and she looks whipped. She looks beaten down by white society. He wants to do something, and he's angry. So that's why the rape. So it's not sexually driven, it's driven by anger and the desire to sort of snap her out of it. So again, he sees that foot, which is basically, the handicap of blackness, and he's attracted to it because he embraces blackness fully. The tenderness welled up in him. The word tender is repeated many, many times here. I don't want to read all of this because it's, disturbing, obviously. I think her grayish panties are important because that would be the mixture of black and white. And remember, her mother works for whites, so that's who would give her these underwear, is her mother. So they'd be grayish. Obviously, that implies her poverty, too. The hatred would not let her pick her up, the tenderness again forced him to cover her up. So the rape is sort of a symbol of his freedom. It's not that he's evil, it's not that he's sexually attracted to his daughter, it's that he wants to sort of shake the lack of freedom and the sense of being subservient out of her. And then Pauline, remember, who views her children as a cross to bear, is obviously not going to be super sympathetic to this. Okay, if my microphone wasn't on this time, I don't know if I had the strength to do it again, but I'll post another lecture soon as I can get it done, about Soaphead Church and summer.